Shalom, welcome back to the Zohar Parsha series. This week we enter Parashat Korach, and according to the Zohar, this is not only a story about rebellion. It is a story about what happens when spiritual desire is no longer purified by humility. Korah does not appear as an atheist. He does not come from outside the camp. He is a Levite. He is already close to holiness. He is already part of sacred service. And that is exactly why this portion is so deep. The danger here is not obvious darkness. The danger is spiritual ambition wearing holy language. Korah says, in essence, why should Moses and Aaron stand above everyone? Is not the whole congregation holy? On the surface, that sounds fair. It sounds democratic. It sounds almost enlightened. But the Zohar looks underneath the words and asks, what is the inner current behind this speech? The Zohar says Korah took bad counsel for himself. He chased after something that was not his. And when a person chases what is not truly assigned to his soul, not only does he fail to receive it, he can also lose what he already has. The Zohar speaks very strongly about the tongue. Korah's rebellion begins before the earth opens. It begins in speech. A whisper becomes a complaint. A complaint becomes a group. A group becomes a movement. And suddenly, an inner resentment becomes a public spiritual crisis. That is why this portion is so important for anyone who teaches, posts, speaks, leads, or simply carries influence in a room. Speech is not neutral. Speech either gathers the words or scatters them. A sentence can heal the field or it can poison the field. Korah's tongue did not look like vulgar speech. It looked like a holy argument. But the Zohar reads the energy, not only the vocabulary. The question is not only, are my words correct? The deeper question is, what spirit is riding inside my words? Bad counsel does not always sound evil. Sometimes it sounds reasonable, but it slowly pulls the heart away from trust. Good counsel returns the soul to its assignment. Bad counsel makes another person's assignment feel like theft. That is the inner doorway of Korah. Once that doorway opens, peace becomes harder to hear in the heart. That is the first hidden lesson. Not every desire for holiness is actually holy. Sometimes a person wants a higher position, not because the light is calling him there, but because his ego cannot accept the boundary of his own role. Korah wanted priesthood, but he was a Levite. The Levite is sacred, but the Levite is not the priest. The Levite belongs to one function in the spiritual body. The priest belongs to another. In the language of Kabbalah, the priest is connected with the right side, with Chesed, kindness, expansion, blessing, and quiet drawing near. The Levite is connected with the left side, with Gevurah, strength, judgment, song, discipline, and intensity. Both are needed. The right without the left becomes weak. The left without the right becomes harsh. Chesed gives warmth. Gevurah gives structure. But when the left refuses to be gathered into the right, judgment begins to fight mercy. And that is the root of Korah's fall. The Zohar says Korah turned toward disagreement instead of peace. This matters because Shabbat itself is described as peace between the upper and lower worlds. Shabbat is not just a day off. Shabbat is the state where the upper grades and lower grades settle into harmony. So whoever creates division inside that peace attacks the very structure by which the world endures. This is why Korah is not merely punished for disagreeing. He represents mahloket, division that is no longer for truth. There is a difference between holy clarification and destructive dispute. Holy clarification may look intense, but it seeks alignment. Destructive dispute may use holy words, but it seeks self-exaltation. The Zohar is teaching us to listen behind the voice. Sometimes the words say everyone is holy, but the hidden tone says, "Why not me?" Sometimes the words say, "I care about justice," but underneath there is jealousy, comparison, resentment, and hunger for recognition. This is why Moses does not argue in a normal way. Moses says, in the morning, Hashem will show who is his and who is holy. The Zohar asks, why morning? Why not immediately? Why not at night? Why wait? Because morning is the awakening of Chesed. Morning is when kindness rises in the world. Morning is the time of clarity, softness, and holy nearness. Moses is saying, let the morning itself test you. If your energy belongs to harsh judgment, the morning will not receive you. If your desire is truly rooted in Chesed, the morning will reveal it. That is a very deep spiritual principle. Not every question should be answered in the heat of the moment. Some conflicts need to be brought into the morning, meaning bring it into clarity, bring it into kindness, bring it into prayer. Let the emotional intoxication pass. Let the ego cool. Then see what remains. Many times, what feels urgent at night becomes exposed in the morning. At night, the mind argues. In the morning, the soul can hear. Then comes the test of the incense. The Zohar says incense is not just a ritual smell. Incense binds the levels together. The smoke rises and connects. It joins the worlds. It gathers the broken atmosphere into one thread. But that is exactly why incense is dangerous when handled by the wrong inner state. Incense is connection. If the person offering it is aligned, it binds the worlds. If the person is inflated by ego, the same force exposes the separation inside him. This is a powerful truth. Sacred tools do not automatically make a person sacred. A prayer, a ring, a garment, a title, a ritual, a teaching, a platform, even knowledge of Kabbalah itself, all of these become mirrors. If the vessel is humble, the tool draws light. If the vessel is distorted, the tool magnifies distortion. Korah and the 250 men bring fire pans. They approach the holy with fire, but their fire is mixed with self-claim. They do not come to serve, they come to prove. And whenever we approach holiness to prove ourselves, the fire becomes unstable. The Zohar makes a distinction between holy and pure. The Levite is pure. The priest is holy. Pure means cleansed, prepared, separated from contamination. Holy means drawn into a higher intimacy with the divine order. Korah was not nothing. He was not spiritually empty. He had purity. He had status. He had nearness. But he wanted a holiness that was not his assignment. This is one of the hardest lessons for a spiritual person. You can be close to the holy and still be outside a role that belongs to someone else. You can carry power and still need boundaries. You can be chosen for one path and still not be chosen for another path. The immature soul hears that and feels rejected. The mature soul hears that and feels relief. Because when you stop fighting for another person's portion, your own portion becomes luminous. After the rebellion, the earth opens. In the simple reading, this is terrifying judgment. In the mystical reading, the outer event reveals the inner condition. Korach's energy was already separating downward. His speech had already opened a pit. His jealousy had already hollowed the ground beneath him. This is how division works. It feels powerful at first. It gathers people. It creates noise. It can even look like influence. But underneath, it removes foundation. The person who lives by constant opposition eventually stands over an inner emptiness. Then the portion moves to Aaron. A plague begins among the people, and Aaron takes incense and stands between the dead and the living. This is one of the most beautiful images in the whole portion. The same incense that destroyed the false claim now stops the plague in the hands of the true priest. Why? Because Aaron is not using holiness to prove himself. He is using holiness to save others. That is the difference between Korach and Aaron. Korach says, "Why am I not higher?" Aaron says, "How can I stand between death and life for the people?" Korach uses sacred fire to challenge order. Aaron uses sacred fire to restore peace. The Zohar says the priest works in whisper and secrecy, from the right side, from Chesed. The Levites work with raised voice and song from the revealed side. This does not make one worthless and the other valuable. It means some powers are meant to be hidden, and some are meant to be expressed. Some service is silent. Some service is sung. Some influence happens by speech. Some influence happens by presence. When the right and left know their places, the world is repaired. When the left serves the right, judgment becomes music. Discipline becomes devotion. Strength becomes protection. But when the left tries to overthrow the right, judgment becomes accusation. That is why Korach is such an important portion for anyone walking a serious spiritual path. The more light you carry, the more carefully you must guard your motive. Spiritual power without humility becomes argument. Spiritual knowledge without surrender becomes coldness. Spiritual discipline without love becomes judgment. The Zohar also connects this portion with offerings, tithes, and the movement of energy from one side to another. On the surface, these are laws about gifts for priests and Levites. But inwardly, this is about circulation. The light cannot remain trapped in one place. What belongs to the priest must go to the priest. What belongs to the Levite must go to the Levite. What belongs to the Shechinah must be lifted back into union. This is how a holy community breathes. Each part receives what belongs to it, and each part gives what it is meant to give. No one steals another person's current. No one despises their own function. No one tries to become the whole body. Korach's error was not that he saw holiness in the people. That part was true. The whole congregation does have holiness. His error was using collective holiness to erase sacred distinction. In the Zoharic view, unity does not mean all roles become identical. Unity means every role is aligned to the one. This is a major difference. False unity says no one should stand in a different place. True unity says every place should serve the same light. The Zohar later speaks about prayer, the Shechinah, and the 12 boundaries. The 12 tribes, the 12 countenances, the right, the left, and the center all form a pattern of ordered wholeness. The camp journeys by the command of Hashem and rests by the command of Hashem. Movement and stillness both become holy when they follow divine instruction. This is the opposite of Korach. Korach moves because his ego is restless. Israel is meant to move because the command of Hashem moves them. Korach wants to rise by taking. The soul rises by listening. So the practical question of this parsha is very simple, but very sharp. Where in my life am I trying to take what has not been given? Where am I using spiritual language to hide comparison? Where am I calling something justice when really it is resentment? And where am I refusing to honor the portion that is already mine? Because your portion is not small when it is truly yours. Your path does not become greater by imitating someone else's path. Your light does not become brighter by fighting another person's assignment. According to the Zohar, peace is not weakness. Peace is the correct arrangement of forces. Peace is when Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet, right, left, and center, each stand in their proper place. Peace is when the hidden and revealed, the priest and Levite, silence and song, fire and incense, all serve the one. That is the rectification of Korach. Do not turn holiness into competition. Do not turn purity into entitlement. Do not turn equality into erasure of divine order. And do not confuse being near the sacred with owning every sacred role. Let the morning test the heart. Let Chesed reveal the truth. Let incense become connection, not self-display. Let your speech create peace, not fracture. And let your soul say, I do not need to take what belongs to another. I only need to become faithful to the portion that heaven gave me. Because when every soul stands in its true place, the Shechinah rests among the people. And when the Shechinah rests, there is no need to fight for greatness. The light itself reveals who is His, who is holy, and who is truly near. Shalom.